We're in a guest location today. I went over to JD's nice clean garage because I got tired of filming in my dirty garage. And today we're going to talk about how to install the sight glass kits. And a lot of people have emailed me some questions about how to put this in. And also I just added an eye bolt for the top, to hold the top of the sight glass to the top of your vessel. And I also added some calibration numbers. If you probably saw on the website, got some vinyl cut, all-weather vinyl cut for marking off the increments on your vessel on the sight glass. Now this is the combo thermometer and sight glass, which I'm currently out of stock right now. But the procedure for installing this and calibrating it is exactly the same whether you use the combo thermosight or the regular elbow sight glass. So we're going to talk about how to install this in a keg-based vessel today, but the installation is just about the same even if you had a straight-sided pot. All right, the first thing you need to do is mark the location of your drilled hole, and I don't recommend putting it anywhere where there's a handle. So in a keg you want to avoid the handle hole in the top skirt, and in a regular straight-sided pot you want to avoid the handle that sticks out because you don't want your glass to impede the handle in any way. So rotate your pot off to the side, someplace where there is no handle, and we want to focus on the bottom of the pot. You want to take a piece of masking tape and put it about at the bottom, sort of even with the bottom skirt weld here, and just secure that there. And you want to measure from the very top of the weld about 5/8 of an inch. All right, so use a Sharpie marker or a pencil or something like that. And from the very top of that skirt weld there, mark off 5/8 of an inch above that. All right, that's your center point for the hole we're going to drill. And the drill bit that I recommend you use is a unibit or a step drill bit. And you know, these are very helpful when you're trying to bore out a hole that you already drilled, and it also makes very quick work through thin metals like stainless steel pots and kettles. They do go in increments, and the bit right here that you see me holding here is also available on my website where you buy the sight glasses. I had a couple requests to link people to places that they can buy these inexpensively. So I figured, you know, why not just make it easier and offer this. It's less than $10 for this bit, and you can drill tons of holes to install a bunch of sight glasses. You know, cutting oil in your garage, you can actually use olive oil or vegetable oil, whatever you have, to dip this bit into and keep the bit cool while you're drilling. And stainless, when you're drilling stainless, it's preferred that you use a slow speed, but use, you know, moderate pressure. Push down on the bit pretty hard as you're drilling it. All right, and stop at 9/16 and you're going to see that the hole is nice and clean. And if you want to, you can go from inside the keg, if your drill is small enough, and use the bit to deburr the backside of the hole. So through the magic of editing, we have our nice clean 9/16 hole. And to double check, you want to take your threaded bushing and just make sure that it fits nicely. So to install the sight glass, again, whether it's the T or the elbow type fitting, just take note that we have a couple different parts. One is the threaded bushing, which is a 1/4 inch MPT. We have either 1 or 2 stainless washers, and we have the silicone gasket. So the way that this goes together is that you put the bushing through the washer first, and you reach inside the kettle and stick it through the hole so that the threads are sticking out. Then you want to apply the gasket, and you can just hold that still while you thread in the bushing. Okay, so you can see that the gasket's pretty tight on the thread, so it even holds it in place. And now you take your elbow fitting or your T, and you put it there next to the threads, and then you just turn the threaded bushing from inside the vessel. Okay, and you just hand tighten that until it stops, and then take note as to how much the gasket is being crushed. You don't want to squeeze it out of there, but you do want it to compress just a little bit. So if you need to use an adjustable wrench on the inside, you should do that. Okay, the next thing we want to do once it's installed is you want to take a level and start leveling off your pot. And you want to level it from front to back where the sight glass is installed. And that looks pretty good. And then also side to side. And if it's not level, you know, just grab a couple pieces of shim or scrap wood and shim the pot until you get a perfect level front and back and side to side. This is especially important when you start calibrating the gallon levels on the sight glass. The next thing you want to do is get ready for your installing the eye bolt at the top to hold this steady so that it's not moved too much. And just quickly, if you want to make it look good, you put the level against there and make sure that it's plumb in relationship to the kettle. All right, and then put the eye bolt down the sight glass, and find if it's a keg, you want to find someplace on the skirt that's above this weld, because if you make it lower than this, you could leak through that hole. And the same thing with a regular straight-sided pot. You want to make it as close to the top as possible. And again, you find where that hole needs to be and put a mark on the kettle with a Sharpie, and then you want to drill a nice clean 1/4 inch hole. I had already drilled this hole earlier, but you leave one nut on the eye bolt threaded almost all the way down, slip it over the sight glass, insert the bolt into the hole, and then from the back side put another nut on there. Okay, so you can see that now we have a nice vertical sight glass installation. The eye bolt up here is holding it steady, and it should be leak free at this point. So the next step is to calibrate. And again, make sure that your vessel is generally level before you start the calibration process. What you're going to need for the calibration is some masking tape, a pencil, Sharpie marker, whichever you prefer, and a couple of containers that have at least a gallon increment marked off on it. And the vessel that we're using today is just a PET plastic jug here, and I've measured with a more accurate measuring cup, the 1/2 gallon mark and the 1 gallon mark up here. So we're going to fill these up to the 1 gallon mark with water, and then we're going to calibrate the vessel. You want to take a piece of masking tape and go along the side here and try to make it as vertical as possible. You could just kind of eyeball it. Okay, that looks nice and vertical, and then just push it on there. Now this serves two functions. This is what we're going to write on as we're adding our gallon at a time water, so we can mark our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and all the way up. But it also creates a nice vertical straight edge so that when we're applying our vinyl numbers, they don't shift all over the place. So we're using this as a straight edge and a frame of reference. So you want to take your container with a gallon of water in there and just dump it in carefully without spilling it on the floor. All right, we have 1 gallon, so put a tick mark on your paper. Take another gallon. All right, so we have 2 gallons in there, and there's still not anything showing up on the sight glass, so we want 2 tick marks. You're going to keep adding gallons until you see the first time it shows up on the sight glass, and then instead of putting tick marks on your paper, you're going to put tick marks on the tape that's stuck to the side of the sight glass. And what we're going to do is mark every gallon increment, and then we're going to just sort of estimate where the 1/2 gallon mark is, if that's something you care about. But on a 15-gallon vessel, 1 gallon increments is probably good enough. Of course, we sped up the film just a little bit. So, but 2 people working on with 2 containers. Really, we did this in probably, I don't know, 7 minutes or something like that. But as you're filling it, you want to let it stop sloshing around a little bit, and then put your tick mark there. 1 gallon at a time is the best way to do this. We didn't feel the need to do it in half-gallon increments, again, because you can kind of just look at it and, you know, 9/16 between each line is about a half-gallon, so you can sort of estimate it by eye. The next thing to do is drain this whole thing so that you can take the sight glass out. The sight glass out of the keg, the kettle, and we're putting it on our workbench now. And probably the easiest thing to do is to grab some tape and secure the sight glass down to the table. Now, our tape is the straight edge. It's going to be the left-hand straight edge for all the numbers. So I want to make sure that that's on the left-hand side, and that most of the sight glass is exposed upwards. So I'm just going to tape this down so that it doesn't move on me while I'm trying to work. All right, basically it's close enough. Now, my kits now are available with either black numbers or white numbers, and I apologize for anybody who ordered the kit before I gave you the option, but now there's black and white. And you could also buy these individually, and I'll put them in an envelope and ship them first class if you bought a sight glass from me earlier before I introduced the vinyl numbering. All right, but what you want to do, JD wants black numbers for his sight glass, so we're going to go with the black. And what you want to do is cut each one of these numbers out. And these numbers have a backing like a sticker, and then the top layer is actually an application mask. It's sort of like masking tape, but it doesn't have the same amount of adhesion. It's a very mild tackiness. So what you do is peel off the backing, and what you'll find is that the vinyl sticks to the application mask. Again, it's pretty gentle, but it's just enough to hold that that number from getting wrinkled. So here's our first mark. It's a 3 gallon mark, and if you've cut this line nice and straight, so use that as your straight edge against the tape. I didn't cut this one exactly perfectly, but we're going to do the best we can. So you line up that edge, and then you roll the number across the tube. Normally, if this was a big piece of vinyl, you'd use a plastic squeegee to make sure that it was nice and smooth, but I'm just going to do it with my fingertip and fingernail. All right, and once you have that rubbed on, now you grab the corner of the application tape and peel it back. All right, so it looks pretty good. It's nice and straight. And the application mask is the key to putting on this this vinyl nice and straight. Again, you can't really move this around very much at all. If you need to take this off for any reason, you're going to scrape this off with your fingernail and throw it in the garbage. So try not to screw it up. And we're just going to repeat that for all of the numbers all the way up to 15. So this is all weather. It should take some pretty good beating, and relatively permanent. I mean, you can scratch it off, and if you need to clean up the adhesive after removing them, you could probably use a little bit of Goo Gone or some WD-40 on a paper towel or something like that. But it's, you know, one of the nicest calibration methods that I've seen, and you know, I hope you like it. I wanted to thank JD for letting me use his sight glass as a guinea pig, and his garage for the cleanliness factor of it all. And we're going to install this back in the kettle, and hopefully it's going to help him out on the next brew day. All right, guys, take care.